You're smart, you're creative, you're dynamic, you're successful. You're good at your job. So why are you relying on something that's frankly not so good at its job to keep track of the stuff that matters to you most, your own information? I have this kind of conversation, maybe not this frankly, maybe not in these terms, frequently with people I coach across all different kinds of industries who come to me wanting to get more done with a little less stress, to live more elegant lives. And it frustrates me and it amazes me. So I want to have it out here. I want to talk about how search is not helping you be more productive. Don't get me wrong. Search is great. Search has revolutionized our lives. There's a whole generation of people who don't know what it is to be stuck at a dinner party wondering or bickering about some kind of fact and not being able to basically speak to a device that then goes out and looks at a repository of crowdsourced information from all over the planet and accurately brings back this esoteric fact, boom, instantly to your dinner table to resolve the dispute. It's amazing. Search has completely changed our world, and in many ways for the better. But the truth is, I think the problem is so many people are trying to live in a future that hasn't arrived and that's never going to arrive. What I mean is that search isn't going to replace the need for us to define what things mean to us. We're living in a world where paper still exists. We're certainly living in a world where email still exists. And as long as it does, I'm going to be dealing with it. I'm going to be trying to deal with it in ways that get it off my mind and into a system so that I don't have to keep track of it up here. It's one of the main principles of this methodology called Getting Things Done, or GTD, that I teach. And so this future that people are trying to live in is a future where search is perfect, where you can just throw it into some big kind of general archive and you'll be able to search it back later. No problem. You'll be able to find it. I'm sure I'll be able to find it. Yeah, mostly sure. Kind of sure. Probably. Is probably really good enough for you? I mean, if it's something really, really important, is probably good enough. It's probably good enough when you're, I don't know, picking a safe babysitter for your kids. Is probably good enough when you're wondering, if the mechanic on your airplane has done his job. No, it's really not. So because these things exist, I deal with them. I deal with them now in the reality and in the future, as it were, that I'm living in. What does that mean? It means I've got a 3-drawer filing cabinet for the paper in my world, and I file that stuff away. Why? Well, for one thing, I have to, right? And so basically what I do is I think about what I'm going to be thinking about when I want it back. And that's how I label it, and that's how I put it in. So it's T for taxes, right? But search doesn't do that. Search doesn't necessarily know that, A for automobile and C for car are the same thing. And yeah, sure, AI is getting better, but artificial intelligence is not going to be able to replace real intelligence. It just isn't. If you want proof, just go to any texting app on your phone right now and try to write a basic message, and half the time, at least if you're me, you're battling against autocorrect to try and tell it what you really mean. It's the possessive, no, not IT apostrophe S, the contraction. And it's going to be helping you in ways that hold you back. Same is true basically at this point for search in the world in which we live now. So a lot of this thinking actually for me comes from my background in computer science. I looked at a survey recently where a bunch of programmers were asked various questions about the different types of things they do in their job. One of the number one things they said, one of the most important skills in computer programming, is knowing how to name things correctly and well. I'm going to name things, not even just knowing, how to write these complex, algorithms and do these amazing things. And no, just knowing how to name it so that when you get back to it, you can keep programming, or some other poor person that comes along and inherits your code can also understand the way that you were thinking. Well, guess what? Your future you is like that poor person that's going to inherit your code or your coding system or whatever. So it's worth taking a few seconds and thinking about, how am I going to want to get this out? Again, it's another basic concept from computer science and kind of data design. What's the end goal? What am I going to be thinking about? Well, I'm going to be thinking about taxes. Great, put it in as taxes. Well, but where? Well, how about under T? Comes right after S and right before U, right? Very, very simple approach, but it lets you get back to the stuff you need. I'm harping on about taxes because, actually, I had an experience recently that validated for me every single moment that I've been taking to put things into discrete places with clean edges, places that have folders, both physically and, yes, in my digital world to a great extent whenever I care about it. We needed to find a proof of mailing for a tax document for some overseas taxes. Do you have any idea the fine they were going to assess if we couldn't prove that we sent this thing off and it was their fault that they lost it? It's $10,000. So yeah, it takes a couple of seconds to put stuff in, but the potential, the heart failure that it's going to save you, the potential stress, the potential for huge financial consequences in your world is really there. Is it really that hard to take a couple extra seconds? Does it feel that kind of menial and beneath you and silly to actually have a good reference filing system in place? If so, I think you need to look at that, because you are a smart person, because you are a dynamic, creative individual, and because you are good at your job. But frankly, search isn't always. I think you deserve better. I think you deserve to take a few seconds and make sure that future self, when it needs to go get something, can do so in a way that's razor sharp.